Okay, to begin with, I lost some camera footage, so I'm gonna tell you what I'm doing here. For many years, I've been a landlord now for over 30 years, and even on the second house we ever bought, it had no air conditioning in it whatsoever. So I bought the air handler and the outside unit myself, did all the grunt work, did the duct work up in the attic, ran the lines, ran the power lines, added the breakers, did all that stuff myself. So which is a lot of work. And a lot of some of your heat and air guys, some really don't want to do installs. Maybe they're just too busy. They'd rather get in and get out, go to the next job. So if you do all the grunt work yourself and then have everything ready to go, then the heat and air guy, he just has to come out, braze the line set, release the refrigerant, balance everything out, and maybe hook up the thermostat wires for you, that kind of stuff. So he can may only be there maybe 2 hours and charge you 2 hours labor, and you can save yourself a lot of money. And you can see here, I bought from here AC wholesalers. I bought from them many times over the years. So you can go, if you don't know what you need, call them up, tell them what you got now. You got a 2-ton split system, or if you have a package unit, whatever you have. Package units are great because you don't have to deal with the Freon lines like you do with the split system. But most houses that I deal with, we have to deal with the split system, air handler, and outside unit. And I'm doing this video just showing another example. Each one's a little bit different. Like some of them are up in the attic, a little bit more work because you got to hoist the air handler up in the attic and have a drip pan and all that stuff. This one here is one of the easier ones because the air handler was located in the basement, so it was real easy to get to and access. So if you have something like that to do, if you have, if you have some basic understanding of electrical, mechanical, if you can read a manual, they have good manuals that come with them, tells you the basics of how to hook things up. But I think you might find this helpful, and you can tackle this little project yourself and save yourself some money. So enjoy the video because here it comes. All right, with outside unit set, now it's time to get the new air handler sit in place. So there's the old air handler. Kind of got it measured out. The dimensions are fairly close, a little bit thinner, but the height is pretty much the same. So hopefully the ductwork won't give me too much trouble to match up. But before I do anything, we got to put the heat strips in it, 10 kW heat strips. It's amazing those little coils right there can heat your whole house. So, because if you look down in here, there are no heating coils at all. It doesn't come with one. So keep that in mind if you go to order one of these things. You need to also get your heat strips, or you're not going to have any supplemental heat or backup heat for the heat pump. Because when you get down below 30 degrees, the heat pump alone is usually not enough to keep your house warm in more northern climates. So I'm going to take this panel off, and it comes as instructions. It's pretty straightforward. Just mount that box in there and get it wired up, get that part done. As you see, it's pretty straightforward. You take this plate out, discard it. We just take the heat strips and mount it right in that hole. And I was wanting to point this out. It's pretty interesting how these things work. Like I said before, it's amazing these coils can heat the whole house. But the components here are pretty neat. And like these are like safety thermostats. If it gets too hot, it'll break the connection on each coil, because you got two here. Each one, I believe, being 5,000 watts. Then if these, the reason why you need these, in case the blower motor, so in case your blower motor was to fail, the motor burned up and not moving any air across these coils are going to get red hot until something pops or burns in two. So you got these two safety devices, and if they happen to fail, then you also have these thermal fuses. They actually pop and blow. They don't reset. These will usually reset if they get too hot, but these will pop and blow, and you have to replace them. I've had to replace those before when fan motors will fail. It gets so hot they pop. So anyway, pretty neat little setup how all this works. There's your contactor. So let's get this, put a couple screws in it and get this put on. Well, you see, installing the heat strips is no problem at all. I set my breaker in just like the instruction says. You're just 3 screws you got to put in here. You plug up your connector. All that's done. See, the heat strips are installed. And you can see I got my thermostat wires here. So I've been looking at the old one, how I'm going to strategize about getting it out. I got the tape cut loose from the ductwork. I'm hoping I can get this out by myself. That's the goal. Got this stuff taken loose, get the lines taken away, out the cut and out of the way. I got to kill the breakers, because see right now we still have power. I gotta make sure we get that turned off. I'll pull this 220 wire out, pull out the thermostat wires, try to get the old air handler out, and set the new one in its place. So let's get to it. Of course, first of all, you need to find your breaker panel, furnace, heat pump, 1 and 2. That should be it. All right, let's make sure it's off. Okay, let's confirm. Yep, it is off. I know my tester's still working because we still got power going to the outside disconnect. So that is off. So now we can, yep, so we'll disconnect these wires and tug and pull on this thing, and I'm hoping it'll come out. It's going to be a tight squeeze. Another thing that's handy is because I'm replacing a Goodman with a Goodman, the wires are the same colors. So I'm just going here and cut these wires off, pull them up through, and it should make for a fairly easy connection. So I shouldn't have to undo all my wire nuts here. I'll just be taking the wires loose here, just cutting these 5 wires and then reconnect them. So that way my thermostat and heat pump, all that stuff will remain the same. You can see how I got lucky on that one. You see I pulled all the wires up through the hole. They came up through. So that should make it a real easy hookup to get tie my wires right back in to these wires here. Once I get it in place, flip on the breaker, then we should have heat again. Because right now I'm just fixing it up so we can have heat, because it's December and the heat pump is not, the outside unit's not hooked up, so we really don't need any air conditioning right now. But once I get it all set in place, wired up, then I'll call the heat pump guy who'll come out here and balance the Freon and get that stuff done. So one step closer. Well, there it is. 5 minutes later, I wiggled it out. So I got that part done. Now we just got to get that in position. You can see the old one right there. Got it all out. You can see it's heat strips. And I got to look at the openings go a little bit different. This is a little bit narrow. So I got to do some measurements and make sure everything's going to fit good and tight. And you know, a lot of this I noticed this ductwork wasn't very good on this, especially on the return. It wasn't sealed very well, so we need to add some tape to that, make it a little bit better. So let's do some measuring and see what I got to do to get this in place and get it sealed up. Okay, looks on my side today anyways, because that opening is just identical to that opening there, because the original one actually overhung by about 3 or 4 inches. They had to put a piece of insulation in there to fill up the void. So actually this new air handler is going to fit a little bit better than the old one. I'm going to have to end up boxing this in because the top part's a little bit larger. So I'll have to work on it once I get it in place. So let's squeeze it in there and get this thing going. Getting closer. And be sure, don't take no shortcuts. Be sure to protect your wires as they're going through that sharp metal cabinet, because it is sharp. So you took a big chunk out of me. So that's how you know you're making progress. You start bleeding. So make sure you get these wires in there good and tight. And get your ground on there. Make sure it's done well. So this part is done. So now all I gotta do is tie my colors together here on my thermostat. And I'll be about ready to flip the breaker on and see if we can't get some heat, because then I gotta finish tightening up the ductwork, get all that taped up good. So this is coming along a lot better than I thought it was going to. Well, I guess I did it right, because it's working and we do have heat. Let me shoot back in here. Yep, 96 degrees. It was warmer than that just a second ago. I just kicked it on, so it is getting warmed up. And check the temperature at the registers. Alright, now it's starting to warm up. Let's see here. Yep. 116 degrees. Getting good now. So I gotta do some more duct work, get this sealed up, put the panel stuff on it. Then I can call the air conditioning guy, have him come up and hook up the Freon lines and get that part done. But see, I've done a lot of the grunt work, so he can come here in maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. He'll have his part finished and done. So save some money, save some labor that way. Now here's things you need to look for when you're working on your furnace. This is the cold air return, and it's not got put together right, because you can put your finger up here and there's cold air sucking right through my fingers really bad. So what's bad about that is also that's not filtered air, so all the dirt and dust is going right through, going right up into the air handler. So I'm going to tape this up good and tight to keep that unfiltered air from getting into the system. In fact, all these joints would be a good candidate for mastic. It's like a putty you brush on there and it dries good and hard and it seals up all those joints. You can see like how the dust, I'll get my light here, see how the dust is accumulating and being pulled in there. That's part of the cold air return also. And it's pulling that dust through there, and it's not being filtered, it's just going to work its way right into the air handler up against that radiator and plug it up. So keep those joints all good and tight. Keep your system running better, more efficient. Well, I guess I've gone about as far as I can go. Everything's all tightened up, wired up, ductwork's sealed up good and tight. Got good heat right now, and I'll just call my heat and air guy, have him come out here and raise up these lines, and this job will be finished. There you go, and I'll try to record some of that also. Okay, it's been a couple days. I'm waiting for my HVAC guy. He should be here any minute, and he's going to raise up the lines for me. Normally I've done that myself in the past, but this is wintertime, it's December, so he'll probably have to, and it's a very short line set, so he may have to adjust the refrigerant level. May have to pull some out. Being the winter time is a little bit more different setting the pressures than it is during the summer. So I'll get a little footage of what I can of what he's doing. Okay, so that's it right there. Okay, well, the HVAC guy has left. He was here about 2 hours, raising the lines, getting everything hooked up and balanced. So now I just got to finish up my part. So I'm going to get the insulation on the suction line, hook up the drain lines. I'm going to add a little safety device on this. One thing I noticed that I didn't like, because it's got the condensate pump, and this is in a basement. It'd be different if it's in a crawl space or something, it wouldn't matter. But because we're in a basement, if the main drain gets clogged up, the overflow is just going to flow water right out all over the floor. So I'm going to add this little device. It ties into the thermostat. So with it on here, and if there's a clog, then it will trip this switch. It'll break the connection to the thermostat. The thermostat will stop operating. It'll shut everything down, and that'll prevent any flooding or damage, hopefully. So I'm going to get started on my part and wrap this up. All right, now it's time to hook up my Easy Trap. Yeah, I know I got to get a cap for this, and because there's my P-trap, will hold the water. And so when you just follow the wires up here, I broke my red wires. This is the power, 24 volt from the air handler going to the thermostat. So I just broke those 2 wires, and I'll tie these 2 in, and then we'll have that part completed. Okay, everything's all tidied up. I got my insulation installed. Everything's working good because it's really cold here. It's going down in the teens tonight, but it's working awesome, keeping everything nice and warm. Only last step I got to do is go out and put the same type of insulation on the outside unit. So, but it's dark and cold. There's no sense of videoing that. So I'll finish this up and have some final thoughts. Okay, while I'm out here, I might as well show you what I did. Got that all insulated. And I told you it was cold. So you can see the snow in the old unit right there. So we've got this finished up. Yay! Oh, one last thing. What a difference how quiet this thing is. This is a scroll compressor. The old one had one of the old Bristol reciprocating compressors. a lot more noisier. But these things are really nice and quiet. And looks like it's running great.